Do you want to talk about your mental health? Well, you've come to the right place. I'm your host. You can call me Horse. Why the long face?
Hello, and you're very welcome back to another episode of Why the Long Face, a podcast with me, Horse O'Keefe. Lads, this is a very special episode. It's the very first episode of the podcast that is now hosted by a 26-year-old. It was my birthday last week, and I fucking went on the tear. And that's pretty much the topic of this whole podcast, is the correlation between drinking and mental health. That's probably the most to the point intro I think I've ever done. So we'll just get straight into it. So, like I said, I was 26 last week. Obviously, I've moved back to the beautiful city of Limerick, and I'm surrounded by a lot of my friends again. So we went out on the Friday, the day of my birthday. Had a couple of people here for a few drinks. What was originally supposed to be like 4 people ended up being like 10, but that's fine. That was fine. It was lovely to see everyone and show off my new house and show off the new Horse HQ and all these sorts of things, and have different friends from different walks of life kind of meet each other for the first time. And you know, that's what I enjoy about a night out, is the meeting people. It's not necessarily the drinking, but obviously there was a fair bit of drinking involved. And again, you go out, it's your birthday, everyone is buying you pints. So I had a very, very, very nice night. Saturday was rough. Saturday was very, very rough. I won't lie. I spent most of the day in bed. I woke up at one point, I ordered McDonald's, I ate the McDonald's still in bed, went back to bed, and then realised at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, fuck, I'm supposed to be going out again because 2 of my friends are moving away. So we're having like going away drinks for them, and I was like, bollocks. We were going out to watch the match. No, there was Ireland were playing rugby. That was pretty much the only thing that I knew. I'm not a sporty person. I have absolutely no interest in rugby, but I do have an interest in my friends, and I had an interest in pints. So I was like, you know what, grand, man, we'll go out. So I did, very stupidly went out after only eating a McDonald's all day and not drinking a lot of anything all day. So I went on the pints again. Sunday was not good. Sunday was not good at all. I was dehydrated. I was drained. In the second half of the podcast, I'll obviously get into the whole mental health side of drinking alcohol and stuff. But the brain wasn't good. Like, the brain was playing tricks on me now on Saturday or Sunday, and I did not appreciate it. And to the point that it is now Wednesday, and I still don't fully feel recovered. Now, I did also go out for pints on Monday, but that was a whole separate other thing. But we'll also get into that. I have a lot to discuss on this podcast, for once, instead of me just going, so yeah, depression is bad. No, don't get me wrong, lads. I'm not here to be preaching, and I'm also not here saying that I'm an alcoholic, nor do I have an alcohol problem. I'm not here to call anyone out, or anyone out who does drink alcohol a lot or anything like that. It's not about that. I simply just want to discuss the kind of... I just had that moment on Sunday where I was like, oh fuck, I can actually see how alcohol affects your mental health. Because I'm also generally I don't go out that much, but since I moved back to Limerick, I've been going out quite a bit, for the simple fact that for months and months and months I wasn't going out. I wasn't really doing a lot, or I wasn't getting to see my friends as much. And now, because I'm back, anytime someone's like, oh, do you want to hang out, do you want to go do this, I'm like, yeah. And generally just that involves pints, because we're young, and that's also, it's just a very Irish cultural thing that if you're hanging out, there's drinks involved. That again is probably a problem, but I'm not here to discuss that. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of plus sides to going out on a night out. There genuinely is. I love going out for the simple fact that, in case you had not noticed, I'm a talker. When I have a few pints in me, I'm even worse. I will talk the ear off absolutely fucking anyone. Friday, I was talking to... I don't know who the fuck I was talking to. A lot of random people about a lot of random stuff. But sometimes it's just nice to get out and meet people that you might not necessarily meet in your normal circles. It's nice to get out. I genuinely have not laughed so much in all my life, and it was, like I said, it was great that, because you know, some nights you go out and you're just like your main friend group, or sometimes you go out with the lads from work. But on Friday night, because it was my birthday, we had lads from my old job, lads from my new job, like my core group of Limerick friends, and they were all mingling and getting to know each other, and it was just such a great laugh. Now, of course, I also got slagged to death, but that comes part and parcel of it being your birthday. That's just the way it goes. Now, a slight detour, just for a second. Just to preface as well, before I get into like how I felt on Sunday or whatever, the week was a bit weird for me anyway, because I realised I was turning 26. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm 26. That's kind of, you're slowly moving past your mid-20s. Now you're kind of getting into like your late 20s. And what have you done with your life? Where are you going? What are you doing? And I had a small little just, you just have a thought, and then you kind of, your brain kind of starts to spiral a small bit. But I caught it, and I was like, hold on a second now. Why does it matter? It shouldn't matter if I'm 26, if I'm 36, if I'm fucking 86, and I haven't figured my shit out. Why does it matter? I'm here. My focus is being here, being healthy, and trying to be happy. That's all that I need to fucking do right now. I don't need a house. I don't need a car. I don't need a qualification. It doesn't define you, like. So anyway, slight little detour, but we're back. But in general, I do, like I said, I love a night out. I also generally don't mind a hangover day. Especially, again, if you've gone out with a couple of the lads and you all stay at the one gaff, and then you go, like, you wake up the following morning and you make the tea, or you go down to the shop, and you have that conversation of, oh, do you remember last night when? And then it's just a load of giggling, and most of the time your fucking voices are gone because you've been roaring and shouting the night before. You're all fucking dying, and you're all just there, and you're probably trying to shit film, and you're just watching something, and you're just laughing and enjoying life, and it's all just part of it. And like, those days I love so much. It reminds me of like when I first started going out years and years ago. There was one lad in particular who lived in town, so we'd always end up staying at his house. We'd go to his house for pre-drinks, we'd go out, and we'd stay at his house. To the point, so the best, just describe how random my friend group was in secondary school and kind of after secondary school. There was one night we were supposed to go to this lad's house for pre-drinks and then go out. We got to his house anyway, and he was like, right lads, come on, we're going. And we're like, what? Yeah. So another one of the lads worked in a garage, and one of the lads who worked in the garage was after leaving his wife, and he was having a house party to celebrate the fact that he left his wife. This random Brazilian man, and all these Brazilian men who we'd never met before in our lives, just rocked onto their house. And they were fucking lovely, genuinely were, couldn't fault them. We had a great night. So we were pre-drinking there, fucking bouncing on trampolines, the whole lot. Your man giving out a stink about his wife, who we also didn't know. And then Jambon was just back from Portugal, I believe, and had brought back some effectively fucking Portuguese poutine, is basically what it was. This shit was fucking strong. So of course, we did a shot of that before we went out. Now I took a shot and immediately was bent over beside the bin, thinking I was going to die and puke everywhere. I didn't, but went down to the pub anyway. A lot of things are quite blurry after that. Had a bit of food, came back to the Brazilian lad's house, stayed up listening to Eminem all night. Very random. Woke up at about 8 o'clock, pissing down with rain, and 5 of us walked from that house across to the deli and then back to my friend's gaff, which was genuinely about 40 minutes of a walk in the pissing rain. And by the time we got back to his house, we were miserable and wet and hungover, and we just sat there on the couch all day watching random YouTube videos and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and we just, like, sometimes all of us were awake, sometimes there was only one of us awake because the rest of us were panned out. But it was just, it's one of those stories that I'll never ever forget, and it's just, it still comes up to this day of like, do you remember the time we all went drinking at the Brazilian man's house because he divorced his wife? I often think about that man too, and I wonder where he is at now and what he's doing, and I hope he's okay. And if you, for whatever reason you are listening to the podcast, I still think about you quite a lot. I hope you're minding yourself, and I hope that you're well. So they, like, even then, more recent stories. A story from Saturday night. So I went out, we watched the match. Me and one of the friends who was moving away. Neither of us have much of an interest in the rugby. It just happened to be on the night that they were having their going away party. But of course the pub was packed, so we were watching it anyway. We genuinely hadn't a clue where Tonga was. Absolutely no idea. So we looked it up on the map. It's basically just above New Zealand. It is fucking tiny. Like, it is so small. And we found a place in Tonga called Puke. Now, it's spelled P-U-K-E. It could be pronounced differently, but for the sake of what we were laughing at all night long, it was, your man there, or the big fucking puke heading him. And that was just our joke for the entire night. We probably did the joke to death, and you're probably listening now thinking, Horse, that's not even that funny, and that's also very fair. But at the time, it was the funniest thing we'd ever heard. But anyway, after the match, we moved on to a different pub. And there was a big enough group of us there, and obviously kind of as the night goes on, you're kind of chatting away with people, and you're kind of like, oh, how do you know such and such, or like, why are you here, or whatever. And at one point I sat down at a bench, and there was a girl there, and she referred to me as Horse, and I thought that was strange, because not a lot of this particular group would call me Horse. They'd know me from the pre-Horse years, so they wouldn't necessarily refer to me as Horse. So I was like, oh, well, how's it going? Wait, why are you calling me Horse? Turns out she's a follower, and has been a follower for, I think she said like a year and a bit, and was very, very complimentary of my videos, and then basically kept telling everyone that I'm famous, when I wouldn't describe myself as famous. And then, for some strange reason, the whole conversation turned to, who's your favourite Batman? Who's your favourite Spider-Man? What's your favourite movies? There was about 4 of us at the table, and we were having, like, you wouldn't see politicians having a conversation as serious. Like, I felt like at one point we should have been doing PowerPoint presentations and bringing out whiteboards and the whole lot. Like, this was just, you know, it was proper deep thought going into all of these decisions and these conversations. To be honest, I can't fully remember what people's answers were, because some of them didn't agree with me, so therefore they were wrong. But look, that was really funny, because obviously there's a handful of you that I have actually met. So it was quite funny for it to be brought up. And like I said, she was very, very complimentary, absolutely lovely girl. Which actually brings me on to another drunken horse story. So, my Jambon's brother-in-law I was invited to his stag, and we went down to Killarney, and this was the second night of the stag do now, and we were inside in a few different pubs. Can't tell you the name of them, but I know we went to McSorley's afterwards, which was like the late bar kind of a thing, and they had a cover band playing, and this cover band was, Jesus Christ, they were fucking unreal, so good now. And the lead singer was absolutely gorgeous, like 6 foot, covered in tattoos, like dreadlocks, piercings. I was genuinely in love with this woman. Like, I was smitten, like. And what really sold it for me was at the end, she was like, okay lads, we'll do one more song, but it's up to you what we do. We can do AC/DC Back in Black. And we were like, yeah, okay. Or we can do Killing in the Name Of by Rage Against the Machines. And we were like, obviously fucking Killing in the Name Of. And it was just unfucking believable, to the point then that I went up to this woman afterwards, and I was like, that was so good, like, it was unbelievable, one of the best gigs I've ever seen. Will you marry me? And she looked me up and down, and she goes, I will, yeah, but just on one condition. And I was like, yeah, what's that? And she goes, you have to ask my husband first. And she pointed at the drummer. Now, this fella was about 6'5", fucking all muscles, fucking shaved head, big fucking beard. And I was like, nah, I can't compete with that little fucking, whatever, what age was I? 19, 20? I was like, nah, that's not for me. Sorry. But I hope she's well too, and I hope that their marriage is still going well. And if it's not, and you are listening, please call me. Now, before I say anything else that can be probably used against me in court or get me arrested, I'm going to move on, and we're going to do Movie of the Week.
I watched the film this week, I ain't gonna talk about it. Movie of the Week.
So look lads, I'll hold my hands up. I have not watched a lot of films in the last 2-3 weeks since I moved back in. I've been just literally spending all my time with my friends and even just chilling with my housemates and whatever. I genuinely have not watched a lot of movies. But Sunday I did. Sunday I watched 2 movies, and again, these movies are not strictly relevant to the topic that I'm discussing, but they're relevant in the fact that I think sometimes people think that because I'm mad into films and stuff, that every movie I watch is like this mad, really like in-depth, like mad fucking deep film, like. And they're not. Sometimes I just turn on a film because I just want to have something on in the background. So on Sunday, I watched the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants of Mayhem, or something like that. And I watched Crazy Stupid Love. Both very, very solid films. The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is animated. I really enjoyed the animation style. It was really fun. I do quite enjoy the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as characters. Anyway, it was the first time I've seen them do it, where they actually had teenagers voicing them. So they actually genuinely seemed like teenagers. It was very interesting. They kind of changed it up a small bit from like the original kind of storyline of how they became mutants or whatever. But it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. And then I suppose, look, Crazy Stupid Love. What's there not to like? It's Steve Carell being Steve Carell. It's Ryan Gosling being Ryan Gosling. Emma Stone is really good in it. The whole cast are really good, and it's what you're kind of watching it, and you're like, oh Jesus, that's them. Oh, he's in this too. Oh my God, there she is. It's really good. So funny. Yeah, and sometimes that it's okay to just throw on something that's just nonsense. Not every film that you have to watch has to be fucking award-winning or like an Oscar-winning film or something that you like have to give your full attention to. Sometimes it's okay to sit there dying inside in bed and just throw on something and just have an old listen. You don't even have to watch it. It can just be there as background noise. There were just two films that I just decided to throw on just to try and boost the mood, and so that I wasn't sitting here in total fucking silence. So now we're going to get back into the more nitty gritty of kind of why I wanted to do this podcast, specifically on the correlation between mental health and alcohol. So look, lads, I'm not going to say anything that's new. This isn't some sort of brand new discovery that I specifically have made. It's a well documented fact that alcohol can affect your mental health. So like I said earlier, I kind of had a bit of a weird moment during the week where I just had like that slight little overthinking kind of session of like, oh fuck, what am I doing? Where am I going? I have no idea what's happening at all. And so that was obviously still in the back of my mind, because that's also how your mental health works, is it might necessarily be at the forefront of your mind, it could be at the back, and then something like alcohol or something like some sort of trauma response will happen, and it'll come back, it'll work its way back around, and you're like, oh fuck, you're still here, hello, I have to fucking deal with you again now. So Sunday, I was here, I was on my own, and obviously it was a 2-day hangover because I wasn't fully recovered the first day before I decided to go out drinking again. There was an element of kind of sadness that two of my friends are moving away and I won't see them for a while. There was the element of, this is yet another birthday where I've woken up in a new house again, just after starting a new job again, trying to kind of get myself back on my feet again, and it pretty much just turned from a birthday party to a fucking pity party. It's exactly what it was. And I was still relatively conscious at the time that all of this was not that it wasn't valid, but like, I got to the point that I was like, oh, my friends are gone. Oh, everyone always leaves me. I always end up on my own. Everyone else goes off and lives their life, and I always end up fucking up and end up back at square one. So this was like the negative thought. This was like the whole kind of crux of what I was thinking of. But at the same time, I was still very much aware that that was not the case. So this narrative was playing, and within the same time as this narrative playing in my head, the logical side of my brain was like, but that's just not it. Like one of them is after getting a job in Luxembourg. Of course they're going to go. One of them is just going back to college to finish off his degree. Like, of course he's going to do that. It's nothing to do with you. It's not about you. It's not like they... You know, but this is how the brain works. Now, if you want to get into the science of it, depression or anxiety or any of these things are a chemical imbalance in your brain. That's obviously the very concise way of putting that. And then alcohol also alters the chemicals in your brain. So if you have a condition such as depression or anxiety that is already altering your brain, and then you're adding alcohol on the mix, it's just going to alter it more. Or you have two things trying to alter your brain at the same time. Neither of those is going to work. Now, again, I'm not here to be saying, lads, don't be going out drinking. Obviously, if you have an alcohol problem, that is fine. But again, I'm not someone who has any experience with talking about alcoholism or anything like that, so I wouldn't dare even try and give out advice on it, because I would be totally wrong. It'd be like me trying to tell a chef how to make a fucking souffle. I wouldn't have a fucking notion, so why would I bother? Surely they're better off going to a professional. Now, to be fair, if a chef doesn't know how to make a souffle in the first place, he has bigger issues, but we're not here to talk about chef cider. Basically, lads, I'm just trying to say, if you are struggling, if you're going through a bit of depression or anxiety, or you're just not feeling the best, and you are deciding to go out to drink, because I'm not here to tell you not to, because, I'm not your mother or your father, despite what some of you might be saying to me in the TikTok lives. But that's a whole other debate. Anyway, just be conscious of it. Just be wary of it. That the following day, physically, yeah, you're going to feel shite, but mentally you are going to feel shite. And 9 times out of 10, what you're probably thinking of might not even necessarily be the reality of the situation. It's basically, when you're drunk, you don't think logically. And like some people get very bad and they're like, oh, you look at me sideways and you said this and it's not what you said, it's the way you said it. It's effectively the same thing. You treat your brain the following day as if it's a drunk one of your friends. So they are saying stuff to you. There's an element of truth in it, but it's not the whole picture, it's not the whole story, and you're better off waiting until that friend is sober to then try and have a conversation with him. Does that make sense? So, if your friend was absolutely rotivated, like absolutely falling around the place, and they're trying to fall out with you, and you have no interest in falling out with them, they're just a bit of a mess, and they're just saying all the wrong things. You're still going to listen to them, you're still going to care for them, because they're still a part of your life, but you're not going to try and sort it all there and then, because you realise that there's no point in talking to a drunk person, because nothing that you say is going to get through. So if the following day, when the alcohol is still flying around in your brain, that's obviously not physically how it works, but all the chemicals are gonna be fucking inside in your brain, why would you then try and be logical with that when it itself is not being logical? And I'm not one to say ignore it. I'm just saying, yeah, listen, but you don't have to take it all on board, because it's not the full reality of the situation. Your biggest focus when you're hungover is get through the day. It's okay, get up, have your shower, have a coffee, drink a load of water, go back to bed, fucking sleep all day if you have to, and just think about when it gets to 5-6 o'clock and you're gonna horse into that spice bag or into that pizza or whatever it is. Just focus on getting through the day. Worry about whatever is going on in the head. That can come back the day after. That is totally fine. And this is probably the only time ever, lads, that I will tell you to not try and process something. Right? And again, I could be totally wrong. This is just what I found. So like I said, on Sunday, I got very, very down for realistically no reason. And I had an old cry and everything, to the point that one of my friends was like, just stop. It's okay. Now, again, I'm not used to the old two nights in a row. And again, I'm pushing on now. I'm an older man now. I can't be drinking like a young fella anymore. I'm not able for it. I'm not built for it. But basically, all I needed to do was just survive Sunday and not try and process any of the shit that was going around in my head, because it wasn't the truth of the situation. My friends aren't abandoning me. They made their decision based on their own lives, which of course they did. Why would they stay in Limerick just for me? Not everyone in my life has left me. That's a very... Well, yeah, there's people who were in my life who are now no longer in my life. Most of those people are older people who just passed away. Some of these people are people I was in relationships with who I'm no longer in a relationship with. That is life. That is how it goes. It's not that everyone I ever meet abandons me. If everyone I ever knew abandoned me, I wouldn't have had friends here on Friday night. If everyone I knew abandoned me, I wouldn't have a podcast. I wouldn't have TikTok. I'd have no friends at all. So you see how my brain was basically trying to convince me of something that was not at all the case. But it's so simple. When you're vulnerable like that, when you get a single thought into your head, that becomes the only thing that has to be the truth, and that is not the case. And that goes for even when you're not, alcohol is not involved. That is just when you're going through mental health stuff in general. You get one idea, one notion in your head, and that becomes the whole crux, it's like the linchpin of the grenade. That's what it becomes. That whole idea is that, and you take that thought and you run with it. That is you pulling the pin out of the grenade, and shit's gonna go off, and it's gonna explode, and it's gonna go all fucking terribly wrong for you. So again, I'm not telling you not to drink. I'm really, really not. I'm just telling you to be mindful. I'm not gonna not not drink. I'm just going to be mindful of the fact that, well, obviously 2 days in a row is a bit much for any man, especially me. I'm not a big drinker. I'm an awful lightweight. It doesn't take a lot to get me drunk, which is kind of good financially. So we're going to move on. We're going to do a little special edition of Straight from the Horse's Mouth.
Do you have a question or a topic you want to talk about? Here's your chance, it's straight from the horse's mouth.
So this week, what I decided to do was I messaged my friends and my family. And I said, lads, what are the best stories you have for horse-based drinking shenanigans? So I've mentioned some. There was the night of the Brazilians. There was the night after the Brazilians. And actually, before I go any further, I'm just going to rattle all these off as a quick fire round. I will not and shall not mention these again, and there will not be any further questions based on what I'm about to say. Okay? Right. So, the night of the Brazilians. The night after the Brazilians. The time that I went down to Tralee to Jambon and we drank half a litre of Captain Morgan and he split his hand open. The time that 2 nights after that, I drank another half litre of Captain Morgan with another friend and he didn't even make it out of the house, and we went out and we ended up at another random house party for people who I had never met. The night that I fell asleep on my best friend's kitchen table and his mother decided to take pictures of me. Now that in itself probably isn't the worst thing, apart from the fact that one of my best friend's kitchen tables is actually an island. So I must have ran and jumped and stayed up there and fell asleep. Same person's house, I once fell asleep out on the lawn for a bit because I slipped off the car when I stepped out the door and I just kept going and I fell asleep on the lawn for a bit of time. The time that I fought a bin on the way home after a night out, and then the week after, because I kind of fought the bin and I kind of screwed up my hand a small bit. Then the week after that, I was walking home with the same friend and he was like, horse, keep your hands in your pockets for the entirety of this walk and I want you to walk in front of me and I'll keep an eye on you. I was like, grand, no hassle. Got back to the house, took my hands out of my pockets, my hand was bleeding. Genuinely don't know what I did. To this day, couldn't tell you, haven't a fucking clue. The time at my uncle's wedding where I very drunkenly sang Horse Outside for absolutely no reason. For a while it became a thing that at pre-drinks, if someone played YMCA, I would take my top off and I would perform a whole choreographed dance to YMCA. One night we were at my friend's house and we were drinking and we decided to start making petrol pitchers on the ground and light them on fire. Do not do that, it's a very bad idea, but we made a very big willy out of petrol and we made a bat symbol. The time at my own 18th, where one of the lads passed out on the wall and a lot of the other lads went into the field next door and they started chasing sheep. There's also the time where I went back to a house of my old manager from one of my old jobs after a night out, and I decided I was giving him a lap dance and I kneed him into the eye socket. And lastly, we have the very first time that I ever drank whiskey neat. I was at my uncle's house and I disappeared. I came back with a onesie on. I don't remember the onesie being mine. So I then ran around the house, the outside of the house in the piss and rain in the onesie. I then came in, I decided that the onesie was too wet, so I just got into my boxers, my bright pink boxers now. I fell asleep cuddling their dog on the floor, then I got up again, I had a bit of a second wind, and I sang my heart out to See You Again by Charlie Puth, which was the song from Fast and Furious after Paul Walker died. So like I said, there you go. That's a lot of information now that you probably did not need or did not want to hear. I will not take any questions on any of the things that are said, and if anyone ever brings them up, I will deny absolutely everything that was just said. So there you go. You got an awful lot of information on my drunken shenanigans, and then I hope you have kind of maybe something has become clearer to you about drinking and your mental health. Like I said, I can't say it enough. I'm genuinely not here to tell you lads don't drink, because that's your own decision. It's entirely up to yourselves. Just please be mindful of the fact that when you are hungover, your brain is still a bit drunk and it's like trying to argue with a drunk friend. So just let it off. Just let them off. Let them come back to you and be like, oh look, I was very bad last night. I'm very sorry. And then start up that dialogue between yourself and the thoughts that you're having. There's no point in trying to do it when they're drunk. So there you go, lads. If you're going out over the next 2 weeks, enjoy yourselves. Have a pint for me. Preferably a pint bottle of Bulmers, because look, it's the best alcohol that you can drink, and I don't care what you think, and if you want to unfollow me for that, that's totally fine. but I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to spit facts. And more importantly than anything else, mind yourselves.